Welcome again to the lamb stand. Today we're doing Israeli lamb, Zahav braised lamb shoulder from this cookbook by Michael Solomonoff. And Zahav is his restaurant in Philadelphia, reputed to be the best Israeli restaurant in the United States. And it includes pomegranate molasses, which is a concentrated pomegranate juice, essentially, and chickpeas, and it's braised for 5 hours. Just amazing. This is one that I made yesterday. First of all, you soak it in a brine overnight. That includes various spices and garlic, and then you dry it off like this and brown it in the oven in a very hot 475 degree oven for a half hour to get it nice and brown, and then reduce the heat to 300 and braise it for 5 hours in a liquid that includes pomegranate molasses. And Michael Solomonoff uses water. I used lamb stock instead, and he uses a lot more liquid than I did. I cut his liquid in half and doubled his pomegranate molasses to make it quite a bit more pomegranate and richer and thicker. And then you soak chickpeas overnight and then drain them and put those in with the brown lamb, and as I said, braise it for 5 hours. And when it comes out like this, you don't use it right away. You let it come to room temperature so that the lamb absorbs the braising liquid, and then you put it in the fridge overnight. And one of the great things about doing that, besides the fact that it marries all the flavors, is that the fat cools on the surface of the liquid, which becomes a jelly, and you can just scrape it off like I did. So I'm going to heat this up and plate it while this batch is braising. And then over here are all the ingredients for Schug, which is from Yemen, condiment, very hot condiment used in Israel, and it's really nice with this braised lamb shoulder. This comes from this Israeli cookbook, Sababa, and so it has cilantro, parsley, a whole lot of garlic. There's 20 cloves, 2 tablespoons of lemons, a dozen jalapenos, and then olive oil, salt, pepper, cumin, and cardamom. My cousin Chad called it chimichurri plus, oh my God, what have I done? So it's hot, but it's a great condiment, and you use it sparingly, and just really is a great accent to this a braised lamb shoulder. So let's get cooking. I'm going to mix the lamb stock and the pomegranate molasses together. That's going to be the braising liquid for the lamb and chickpeas. That's a quart, and this is a cup. And in the original recipe, it was 2 quarts and a half a cup, so you can see I'm really concentrating the pomegranate flavor. You want the braising liquid to come halfway up the roast. So we'll see. I may have to add some water, which is fine. But basically, my view is don't use more braising liquid than you absolutely have to, because you want, in the end, for the flavor to be very concentrated and to be thicker. So if you use too much liquid, you're not going to get that. I'm taking the brown shoulder out of the oven, and I'm going to put the one I cooked yesterday in the oven, and that'll go for a half hour. But every 5 minutes, I'm going to stop and baste it with the braising liquid. So here goes the lamb in here. The drained chickpeas. And the pomegranate stock mix. Probably could be a little higher. It's about, you want it to be about halfway up. So I'll put a little bit more water in there. I don't want to put much. This is a little trick that comes courtesy of my friend Colt Taylor, the chef at the Essex restaurant in Centerbrook, Connecticut. So you take a piece of parchment paper, fold it, and fold it again. You're going to end up with a circle. So you want that parchment paper that's going to cover the lamb and basically go to the edge of the pot. So that's about right. And then over here, and then essentially just cut a circle around between the two. Anyway, the parchment paper goes over the lamb like this. I'm going to cover the pot with aluminum foil. So this is ready to go in. I'll turn the heat down to 300 and then put this in, and that will go for 5 hours. And again, this one that's heating up is just to really heat the lamb through and get a little bit more of a brown on the exterior, thicken the braising liquid a little bit, and you baste it every 5 minutes. So this recipe for Schug uses 2 cups each of cilantro and parsley. So that's one bunch of, the top of one bunch of cilantro goes into the bowl of a food processor. So here's the second cup. Let's just check. Yeah. I'm going to use those stems for something else. Not sure what, but I will. Some kind of stock. Here's the parsley. Based on what we just did, I'm going to assume that's 2 cups. Great. The recipe calls for 20 cloves of garlic peeled. They're going to be ground up, so you don't have to chop them or anything. 20 cloves was about 2 heads of garlic. You know, it'll vary based on the size of the head. But I'm just going to, you know, peel all these and toss them in there. Okay, so this is a dozen or so jalapenos and serranos, and the idea here is to stem them and coarsely chop them, but not seed them. As a consequence, for those of you who know peppers, this is going to be really hot because the heat of a pepper is in the seeds. And the concept of this condiment is for it to be hot, so if you took the seeds out, you would defeat the purpose, right? So, as my cousin Chad said, chimichurri plus a whole lot of, oh my God, what have I done? Have you ever had any recipe that used a dozen unseeded jalapenos? So then just coarsely chop them. They're going to get ground up in the food processor. Okay, then 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of ground cardamom, 2 teaspoons of fresh ground pepper, 2 teaspoons of cumin. Okay, this is 2 teaspoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice, which is about 1 lemon. 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Okay. It goes for a minute, but you got to stop and scrape it down to make sure it gets evenly processed. That looks good. So I'm putting the Schug into a tight fitting glass jar, and it'll keep quite a while in the fridge. It will take you a while to use it. Use with caution. Parmesan's from Tony's Colonial Market, Federal Hill, and it is awesomely good Parmesan.